Hey everyone, it's Brett Hornby here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So you saw that intro card. It's time for another run to the Grey Cup, as I like to call this playlist, the On the Road to the Grey Cup. Well, for the 2024 season, this is the 111th Grey Cup that will be played in Vancouver, British Columbia. It'll be on Sunday, November the 17th. As the Border Collie calendar says, it's now November. Well, I've already previewed the East semifinal, so you can see that video where I previewed the Toronto Argonauts and the Ottawa RedBlacks, that game. Now let's shift west to the west side of the bracket. As in the West semifinal, this game will have the Saskatchewan Roughriders hosting the BC Lions in Saskatchewan on Saturday, November the 2nd. So before I get into the preview on the West semifinal in the 2024 CFL Playoffs, so if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, just make sure you hit like, subscribe. I have my other social links down in the description below. Sadly, my Calgary Stampeders did not make the playoffs for the 2024 season. But I'm still a CFL fan and I'm still going to enjoy another run to the Grey Cup. So I'll still plan as I've done in previous years. The exception was a few years ago when I was sick as a dog. What I plan to do, preview the 5 games to the 111th Grey Cup in Vancouver. I already got the East semifinal done. Now let's do the West semifinal. So to try to streamline it a little more this year with custom thumbnails. But let's bring on the West semifinal, as ultimately the winner of this game will be taking on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers next Saturday, November 9th, at Princess Auto Stadium in Winnipeg. So how do we get here with the Saskatchewan Roughriders hosting the BC Lions? It'll be on Saturday, November 2nd, 2024 at Mosaic Stadium. This game will be a 4:30 p.m. Mountain kickoff, or 6:30 Eastern. I'm on Mountain Time, but you know, a couple times you can do the conversion whenever you're watching this video. So how do we get here? Well, the 2 records for each team is the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They finished 2nd in the CFL West Division, so I got the red and white light. It's blue and white for the East Division, as Saskatchewan had a 9-8-1 record. While the BC Lions, they were 3rd in the East Division with a 9-9 record, and Winnipeg was 1st in the West Division, and Saskatchewan BC were ahead of both Alberta teams, the Hamilton Elks and my Calgary Stampeders, and first time since 1945 Alberta's left out of the CFL Playoffs. Break down the records even more for both teams. Well, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, actually, considering how tough of a place it is to play in Saskatchewan, they were actually 5-4 at home this season, and then they were actually 5-5 versus the West Division. But Saskatchewan kind of had a good start and a bad, first quarter Saskatchewan was great. Second quarter, third, they weren't so good. Then they picked it up in the last third. Well, the BC Lions, they were 3-6 on the road and 4-5 versus the West Division. So that's how the records break down. As mentioned, the winner plays the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the West final. Now, if you look at the season series, and kind of similar to the season series, if you look at the East semifinal video, it was split and the home team won both games. So week 6, this happened on Saturday, July 13th. The game was in BC. Well, the BC Lions won that game 35-20 over the Saskatchewan Roughriders. However, later in the season, week 19, on Saturday, October the 12th, well, the Saskatchewan Roughriders were hosting this game, and they defeated the BC Lions rather convincingly, 39-8. So the home team won both games. But I'm going to say both teams are at different stages of the season, that it looks like. And now I also like to look at recent playoff history, and it's actually been quite a while that both teams met in the playoffs, because this is the first time since 2013 that the BC Lions and Saskatchewan Roughriders met. But in the 2013 West semifinal, the Saskatchewan Roughriders hosted the BC Lions, and Saskatchewan won that game 29-25 on their run to eventually win the Grey Cup at home that year. And then we go back to 2010. This is the West semifinal as well. And actually this one was a thriller, as the Saskatchewan Roughriders were at home for this one. They defeated the BC Lions. It was a high-scoring game. It was 41-38. That one needed double overtime, so that's why the score was a little higher. And then the 2008 West semifinal. This game also was in Saskatchewan, but the BC Lions, they actually won that game 33-12. And interestingly, all three of those cases, they eventually resulted in whoever won that game went here to Calgary to play Calgary in the West final. So it's been a while since both teams have met in the playoffs, first time in 11 years. So now when it comes to who's got the edge, trying my little more look on CFL.ca and give my thoughts and opinions. Well, on offense, Saskatchewan's got an edge when it comes to the run game and the offensive line. I mean, AJ Ouellette apparently is going to be back in the lineup for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and then they were able to get Carl Armstead from when they got released by the Ottawa RedBlacks. Then if they can provide protection up front, apparently they do a better job of that. However, the BC Lions, they're going to have the edge in quarterback and receivers. Vernon Adams Jr., believe it or not, is actually going to be starting this game. You got Trevor Harris on the Saskatchewan side of the ball, and he did deal some injuries, which also was a factor in why Saskatchewan had a little bit of a funk in the second third of the season. But BC did also pick up Nathan Rourke back after his trying luck in the NFL, but I think BC still has the edge at quarterback. And also when you have Justin McInnes as well as Justin McInnes, and then you also have one of the top receivers in the CFL on the team. Justin McInnes and Hollins, I think those are the names that receivers for the BC Lions. So if you look at the quarterback and receivers, BC would have the edge in that one, but they could put up big numbers. They still have William Stanback for running back for the BC Lions, but Saskatchewan's got more depth. But when it comes to the defense, well, Saskatchewan, when it comes to the linebackers, level 2, and the defensive back, Saskatchewan's got the edge, especially Ron Milligan Jr. leading the league in interceptions this year. Could play a role, but the defensive line goes to the BC, especially when they got Betts back, who was the tried his luck in the NFL, is a sack master for the BC Lions. So depending on what level of defense you're looking at, Saskatchewan can win on defense, especially with rookie head coach Corey Mace, who was a defensive back himself, mostly with my Calgary Stampeders. Now when it comes to kickers, both kickers are pretty solid. It's been a pretty good year for kickers in the CFL this year. We'll give a slight edge to Sean White over Brett Lauther when it comes to accuracy. Brett Lauther does have the distance, but if it comes down to kicker, you're better off with Sean White. However, the return game, Mario Alford, he always seems to come up big for the Saskatchewan Roughriders in playoff games, so depends on how the game goes. That could break open the game for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So now, last playoff win. We'll look at both teams' last playoff wins. I mean, BC was in the playoffs last year. Saskatchewan's actually in the playoffs for the first time in a couple years. They last made it in 2021 because they did not make the playoffs the year that they hosted it in 2022 or last year. But last playoff win, well, came at the expense of my Calgary Stampeders for both teams, because Saskatchewan's last playoff win happened in the 2021 West semi-final. The game was in Saskatchewan, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders won that game 33-20 or 33-30 in overtime over the Calgary Stampeders. And then the BC Lions, well, just last year's West semi-final, the game was in BC. BC defeated the Calgary Stampeders 30-16. So, a lot of Calgary Stampeders content on the wrong end or hosting the game between these two teams, but this year it's going to be Winnipeg that will face the winner. So now when it comes to this side of the video, I talk about this team will win if, being the Saskatchewan's home team, I'll talk about when Saskatchewan will win if Trevor Harris has a big game, if he can outduel Burnout's Jr. or potentially Nathan Rourke. Could Keaton Schaefer-Baker have a big game, for example, or even Keyshawn Johnson. And then Saskatchewan win, well, if they definitely have a better run game, if AJ Ladd and Cal Armstead outruns William Stadback, that could probably help the Saskatchewan Roughriders in this case. Then I mentioned Roland Milligan Jr. If he has a big game, gets a few knockdowns or interceptions or even a pick six, I'm going to say that could favor the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And then with this game in Saskatchewan, the Mosaic Stadium home field advantage, could that play a role to help the Saskatchewan Roughriders to victory? And then I'm going to say, from personal experience from games I've gone to on the road, I say Saskatchewan and Winnipeg. Those are the most hostile environments for a visiting team, especially for someone who cheers for the Red. Then I say BC will win. Well, if Vernon Adams Jr. or even Nathan Rourke, if they takes the reins, I mean, if the BC and the receivers have a big game, including, like say, Justin McInnes, for example, could he take the reins and put up big numbers? Then I say if William Stadback hammers home, if he has a big game and steps up for the running attack that Saskatchewan will have. And then the other big one is Saskatchewan was the best team in terms of turnovers. So I'm going to say if they have fewer turnovers than Saskatchewan. And then the last part is we'll have to put on the Mosaic Stadium advantage. Could they get the crowd disgruntled and against their team, or put this one out of the water and Saskatchewan fans leave early? So we'll see about this one. And then with this game being played outside, I look at the weather forecast from Environment Canada, and it doesn't look like weather will be a factor in this game for the West semi-final in Regina, as they're forecasting sunny with increasing cloudiness, high at 10 degrees, so that's pretty nice for now that we're into November in Western Canada in the prairies. And then it'll be dark by the time the game gets into the second half. They're forecasting cloudy, low of 3 degrees, so didn't see anything about predicting windy conditions, so it doesn't look like weather will be a factor in this game. So now the last part, the big part of the video, is prediction. And once again, like in my East semi-final video, I'll use my lights in the background, pre-game scenes. So now we got the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the BC Lions. But I think the Saskatchewan Roughriders are going to win this game. I'll have these colors set up, green and white. Or if I think the BC Lions are going to win, I got orange and kind of a cream, warmer orange for the white, or warmer white for the white, because you can't really have black on the LED. So what do I think is going to win this game? Is it going to be the Saskatchewan Roughriders or the BC Lions? Saskatchewan or BC? Saskatchewan or BC? Let me just ponder this for a moment. Oh, you might like this. I think the Saskatchewan Roughriders will win this one and advance to the West Final to take on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to set up yet another prairie battle. This is going against my preseason prediction. My preseason prediction was I had BC over Montreal for the Grey Cup, but I didn't make any updates, videos, or predictions, but I just think BC kind of just limped their way throughout the season, and the fact that they got Nathan Rourke back has seemed to struggle to find his game from a couple years ago, and then lately, I mean, the CFL is also a league of how you finish. Not necessarily how you start. Well, Saskatchewan, I mentioned, started strong. Then they had a iffy second, third, but they had injury Trevor Harris, and now Saskatchewan looks like they've been on a roll, and BC's been limping. So that's why I think we're going to see the Saskatchewan Roughriders win this one, and I have my score prediction 28-22, and I give this one a 65% confidence in the pick that I think the Saskatchewan Roughriders will advance to take on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers next Saturday in the West Final to set up another classic Prairie matchup. But who do you think is going to win the West semifinal between the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the BC Lions? I have these lamps up. I mean, I am always a proud Calgary Stampeders fan, but I'm going to try to be as objective on these videos. Still have to represent so proudly my team, but I'm just going to look at the facts and the matchup. But may the best team win. So I think we're going to have Saskatchewan, and you can see the East semifinal video who I think will win against the Toronto Argonauts and the Ottawa RedBlacks. Excuse me. So close it out. So I'd say if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, just make sure you hit like, subscribe. I have my other social media links down in the description below. So I previewed both the East and West semifinals. We're on the road to the Grey Cup. On the west side of the bracket, the road starts in Regina, Saskatchewan, and then it heads a little east to Winnipeg, Manitoba, before it goes all the way west to the west coast to Vancouver, British Columbia, and BC Place for the 111th Grey Cup. That game will be on Sunday, November the 17th, where obviously you'll have the East and West champion duking it out. As you know, we're down to 6 teams in the CFL Playoffs, and we'll be down to 4 after these 2 games are played out. And it's the first time in 10 years that Vancouver is hosting the Grey Cup, as I will not be going to the Grey Cup this year unless I win my way in. Just everything's getting more expensive. I am looking at potentially going back to Toronto for spring break, holiday, and catch the Flames on the road. So gotta allocate budget a lot more these days. But if I win my way in, of course, I'll be at the Grey Cup. But what are the odds of that? So I just want to say thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, or stay tuned for next week, where I'll plan to preview both the East and West finals, where we get one step closer to on the road to the 111th Grey Cup, Vancouver. So I'll see you then.